Hey, Valerie, welcome. Jody and I are so excited to have you here today. It's such an honor for you to take time out of your day to be with us. You know, our relationship goes back to probably 15 years, where we spent the last 15 years of our three careers in corporate America in Westchester County. And during that time, we bumped into each other on business boards and nonprofit boards and
Gala
the
events.
galas
Yeah.
with 600 people
Right.
shaking
Yes.
hands, and it
Remember
was always
those
great.
days?
Yeah, and you
Oh,
know,
those
those
days.
days, and you missed a lot of those people, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really brings back a lot of great memories. And then you and I got very close and got to know each other really well on a nonprofit board, Volunteer New York. We were both on the board. I became the board chair, I think, while you were there. Did you come in
Yes.
after?
I came in
Okay.
when you were the board chair.
That's right. And then there was someone after me, and now you are the board chair. So
Yes.
it's funny, and
Amazing.
you're doing a great job.
Oh,
Amazing.
thank you
Great
so
job
much.
in a tough time. So
Yeah.
great job
Yeah.
for sure.
So
Thank
here
you.
we
Thank
are
you.
in our third phase.
That's right. That's
I'm
right.
loving
But
it.
today we're actually here to celebrate you and
Oh,
your new phase of life. And we've prepared a few questions, so we'll start
okay.
rolling through those. I'm going to take the lead if that's okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Woman to woman, so to speak.
And I wanted to start with you went straight from college to a Fortune 100, great company, great career, I'm sure wrought with many highs and lows.
Oh, yeah.
If you think back, what are maybe one or two of those moments that you were like, aha, that was a great day?
Wow. That, you know what? 38 years was an amazing, amazing journey. And there were so many ahas. I was extremely blessed and fortunate with my career to see and be a part of, as you said, a lot of ebbs and flows, a lot of valleys, and a lot of great tall mountains. I have to say that one of my highlights was being the vice president and general manager of running a business unit in Canada.
Wow.
That was a great highlight.
I didn't even know you did that.
How long were you in
Yes,
Canada?
yes. I was up there for 2 years.
Wow.
Wow.
I had to get a visa and the whole thing. And I actually commuted because this was pre
Really?
my son, but my husband's job just wasn't, you know, going to allow for him to quit at that time. He was too engaged. So,
Right.
but I ran the largest business unit for Xerox up in Canada. And it was an amazing opportunity, for me as a woman, American, and a Black female, and. The good news was I was able to report into a female CEO because Xerox Canada is an LTD of
Right.
Xerox. So we had
Right.
to have our own CEO and our own board. So it was a really nice transformation to get to learn, even though it was just across the border, they do things extremely differently than the US. And the experiences were amazing
What was
as
it like?
well.
What was it like when you came back? And how long ago was that?
uh, it was about 20 years ago that I did
Oh,
that
so it was
assignment.
early in your career.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
early in my career. That's yeah, because my son's 22, so it was before he
Wow.
was born.
Wow.
But the experience coming back was, you know what? I really appreciated how they took life in stride. You know, coming from I had a Wall Street assignment. You know, I managed as the first female at Xerox, managing a major account organization that managed all of the Wall Street top accounts.
Wow.
And coming from that assignment, you know, the helter skelter of a day,
Right.
and you go up
Dealing
there.
with all of those women leaders down there that were
I was
Oh,
going to
I have
taking all
say,
the
stories
money.
about, I have
Wall
stories.
Street in the late 80s, early 90s.
That's a
Oh,
tough
Yikes.
I have
time.
stories. I have
I
stories
bet.
about how executive vice presidents of the companies that I went into thought I was the sales rep taking notes when I was the vice president.
That's funny. Yeah.
Oh, I've got stories, but it was amazing. I mean, but the appreciation, you know, Mark and Jody, was the people in Canada, they take life life seriously,
Mhm.
health wise, balance wise, enjoyment wise. So, I would get up, and I had an amazing layout because I had housing right on Bloor Street. If you know anything about Toronto,
I
Bloor
don't.
Street is like the Fifth Avenue of New York City. So
Okay.
I had a condo right on Bloor Street, which all I had to do was go take my elevator down to the lower level, and I could get right on the tube that took me straight into downtown for where my building was, and I could just go straight up and never go outside.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it was an amazing process.
That's
Right.
But
cool.
I would be up at, like, 7 o'clock in the morning, taking a train, getting into the office,
Right.
making sure I was there at 7:30. It's like nobody there, and I'm like, do these people work?
Yeah,
Well, yeah, they do. I mean, they get in at
they do.
8, but they don't stay till 8. I mean, I'd be there
Yeah.
till 8 o'clock at night. I'm like, and they're like, why are you doing that? You're burning yourself out. We can get things done during a normal business day, and so you have time to regenerate yourself and recharge.
Yeah.
You know,
But
we both traveled a fair amount during our careers, and whenever we left the U.S. and went to another office of our companies or a client's office outside of the U.S.,
right,
it was the same way. And we,
yeah,
we would talk to American expats who were running offices in like the UK.
right.
It took twice as many people in the UK to run a branch office than it did here in America because of that. But the quality of life was better.
Right.
Was much different. Was
Right.
much
And
different.
it's a good insight and glimpse on, balance. One of the
Yes.
questions I wanted to ask you, and I didn't know you had the Canadian experience, but
Yeah.
leaving Canada, coming back to the US, and then with this massive career, growing your family, having your son, you know, I did a similar thing, and I always kind of shrugged the balance thing off a little bit because in my world, nothing really ever balanced. There was like winners and losers, and over time
I
there was
love
a
your
balance,
story of
right?
the balls, and
Yeah.
there's
So
bouncy
many.
balls and glass balls.
And the kids were always the glass ball, right? They
Yeah.
could never really drop.
You can't
So,
No,
drop
you
them.
had to
so
hold those.
how did you find that?
Well, again, coming up in a company that actually stressed diversity, inclusion, and balanced workforce was amazing. So we had programs in place for women and men, quite frankly, to be able to make sure that you balanced your work and family life. But once I came back to the US, I actually took on another assignment in emerging markets, which was Hong Kong, China, Russia, and India. It was a new startup operation, and I was their vice president of business development and major accounts. And then I had Ethan, and clearly couldn't travel. And then I just kind of had a lot of great mentors and sponsors that I talked about. Hey, I've been working for the company, because I worked for the company about, what, 12 years before I had Ethan,
Mm-hmm.
15 years. So I was into my career.
Right.
And I said, I'm just not going to be able to do as much travel as I once did. Now, even with that being said, my hours was still crazy, Jody.
Right.
And it was hard. It was
Yeah.
really, really hard. And I had to make sure that I had a good support system. My parents were not here in New York. My in-laws were not here in New York. So my friends and family, and I was so blessed to have a great nanny
Right.
to kind of come in the morning and be with Ethan as I did my thing with him, and then be there at maybe 6 o'clock when I would return, so
Yeah.
I could see him before he went to bed.
Yeah.
But I will say that I also made sure that as many of his baseball tournaments or
Yeah.
choir things, people knew I was going there first
Yeah.
before I was going to
Jody,
be
I
doing
always-
you never
I always
miss.
felt that it was less about this perfect balance that, women strive for, because I wasn't
Correct.
striving for that. It was more about perfect communication. For me, it was if I was honest about what I could and couldn't do,
Exactly.
and I was work performing and outperforming, right? I mean, we
That's
all
what you have to
know
do.
you have to outperform. So you're outperforming and you're honest about your communication. Balance doesn't necessarily play into it. And,
No.
as I coach and mentor a lot of young women, I try so hard to enforce that on them. It takes courage, but
It
you
does.
really have to be honest about what you can and can't do.
Right. And I will
Valerie,
say it did,
yeah.
excuse me, Mark, I'll just say this. I know that it hindered me on promotions. I know that. Some came my way and, wanted me to go to Rochester, and my family wasn't ready to move to Rochester. So I'd have to turn those positions down. And as you both know, when you're working in the corporate environment, when promotions come your way and you start turning them down,
right.
they normally don't come back.
They stop coming.
And,
That's right.
yeah, and you really have to make sure that you have, as you said, Jody, that conversation,
Yeah.
sponsorships and, people that really believed in you and knew that this was only temporary
Right.
before you'd be able to do other things. And so I took a 7-year kind of back seat. And I got to be very honest with you, my career at 38 years, I probably had 28 different positions in the company.
Wow.
I was
Good for
moving
you.
every 18 to 24 months.
That's
But when
great.
I had my son, 7 years, I stayed put in one position. And that was the vice president of corporate marketing for the company around the globe.
Wow.
And I stayed there for 7 years, and I had to maneuver and reinvent that group almost every year to stay relevant and valid so that we could continue to find opportunities to move forward.
Right.
That's great. Hey, Valerie, in a minute, we're going to ask you about leaving Xerox and what that was like. But for everyone who's watching, what over the years has been your vision of retirement? When you get out of college, you think about a pension and saving money, but that was 40 years ago.
I know.
But has your, or even your most recent vision of retirement, what was your vision and how did it change? And then we're going to ask you what it was like when you had to leave and get launched into it.
Sure. My vision for retirement, because, was I was going to kick back on some yacht in the Mediterranean and just sail my life away.
Isn't that funny that we
That
all
was
think
my
that?
vision. I don't know how I ever thought about that, but that was always my vision, to make sure that I could do that. But that's not exactly how it turned out. And quite frankly, I don't think that that's what I want to do anymore.
Was that your last thought, your last vision of retirement just before you retired?
No, my last vision right before I left corporate America was that I knew the opportunities and challenges that I had gone through as a Black female, I had to give back.
Okay.
And as I mentored people in the company and outside of the company, that was one of the things I said, you know what, when I leave this crazy world of corporate America, I want to be able to do something where I can put all of these experiences into play and give back to those coming up. And so
That's great.
that was then my vision.
A lot of people that we run into, they don't retire because they don't know what they're going to do. They just they freeze and they just keep working, even if they don't like it, which is really sad. So maybe we can segue over to talk a little bit about her.
What was the catalyst that, when did you decide at Xerox, like, okay, I think I'm going to set a retirement date?
Or was there mandatory retirement?
So it was a little bit of both. And I say that because I had always envisioned, come my 30th year at the company, had I been able to stay there that long, that would be it for me. My mid-50s, it was perfect timing. I could go off and do something else, whatever that may be, teach, at a college or whatever. And then obviously having my son late in life, I said, well, you know what? I think what I'm going to do is wait until maybe he gets into high school. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll wait till he graduates from high school. And then I said, well, maybe I'll wait till he graduates from college. And then it was like a lot of changing of the guard happened at the company. The culture started shifting. It wasn't as much fun. And so
Okay.
they were clearly looking to reduce their books, and they were offering a lot of different packages, quite frankly.
Right.
And I kind of volunteered. I said,
Good.
you know what? I think it's time. I think now is my time to take a nice little break away from this and go take all of what I know and give back some kind of way. So that's kind of how it happened.
That's a great
But
way
I
to
got to
leave.
tell,
I
it was
mean,
bittersweet. It was so
yeah.
bittersweet. But the company had changed.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that, you know, I had admired, grew up under, so they were no longer there, whether they retired or they had decided to go do something else. And the company's culture and values were changing too. And they weren't necessarily aligned with the kind of fun and opportunistic, you know, way in which we were looking at things before. So I said, you know what? I came home, I talked to my son, I talked to my husband, and both of them were like, what took you so long?
Yeah. You know, it is funny though. You do reach a point in your career, maybe it's your lifespan, maybe it's your career, maybe it's your experience, maybe it's your inventory of talents that are, you know, robust. But you do reach a point where that culture and that community and that alignment of values becomes almost more important than, you know, the day to day, certainly the paycheck, you know, any
Right.
additional, you know, money saved in 401ks or pensions, right? You kind of hit that crossroads where you're like, I don't think we're in
Exactly.
alignment anymore.
And you did it well. You thought about it,
Exactly.
and you had an idea what you were going to do.
Right.
So talk to us now about your first Monday morning after you didn't have to get up and go to work, because we reflect on that a lot. There's the issue of the community of friends that you had, the 40 hours of time that come your way,
Your identity. Right.
So talk a little bit about that transition that you went
Sure.
through, because you're through it now. But
Yes,
yeah.
yes. But I can tell you exactly how it all came to be. The company wanted me to stay a little longer than what once I made up my mind to leave, I was done, ready to go. And I had planned it around the day that I would be leaving the following day to take my son back to college. So that first Monday morning when I woke up, I was in Indianapolis, you know,
gosh.
finishing up my son's move-in, which would have been normal anyway, because I would have taken vacation time to do that. So it wasn't until the following Monday, once we got back from Indianapolis and Eric got up and he went, you know, caught the train into the city to do his thing. And I was like, okay, now what? And actually, Jody and Mark, I was so freaking tired. Excuse my French.
Yeah.
I went back to bed. I actually slept for a couple of days. But then the great thing that I hooked into, I'm an avid tennis lover. So the US Tennis Open was in full force. So I just sat and watched tennis all day.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And just absorbed that. But by the same time, I was working on the board of Volunteer New York. And of course, a good friend of both of ours, Lisa Keston, said, "You're retired? You need to go through Leadership Westchester." I was like, oh my God. And I went through Leadership Westchester that first year. And actually, you know, it really helped me because, like I said, I knew I wanted to give back in some way, shape, or form. But it really gave me a really nice framework by which I knew I could come out of that program and do something more. And so it actually helped me pull out those things that I knew in my gut were the passionate and purposeful things that I wanted to come out and do.
Did you have any struggles? Were there any anxieties or struggles as you left, you know, regarding the loss of community and trying to fill your time, or even your loss of identity?
Well, you know what? I never felt like I lost my identity. Because I was always confident in who I was. And the fact that I know that I can contribute, give me an opportunity, and I know I can contribute. So that didn't bother me as much. What just bothered me was, you know, and it wasn't really a bother, but, you know, I didn't have to schedule my day like minute by minute. I didn't have these, you know, meetings like crazy Outlook meetings and performance reviews that had to be written. So it was kind of like a, you know, kind of moment.
Big relief.
As well. And I still stayed connected though. And so immediately what I started to do was network.
Mm.
I kept in contact with all of my colleagues that were either still at the company or those that had left and I was staying in contact with. But you know, something else I did is I really reached out to a lot of my customers that were
Oh,
in
good
the
idea.
area and stayed in touch with them to just give them an understanding that I had retired from the company, but you know, if there was anything that I could continue to help them with, et cetera, I could do. And I really started to get engaged in Westchester County a little bit more because even though I lived here and my office was right in Tarrytown, and I was obviously all over. I was in Connecticut at one point,
Right.
I was in New York City, but my last office was in Tarrytown. I still flew all over the place. So I didn't have a lot
Yeah.
of good
Right.
networks here. So it was important for me to start building a connection and a set of networks here in Westchester County.
Okay, Valerie. So you've left your company, you got your son off to college, you've been active in the business community. What is it you're doing now? How did you transform yourself into who you are today? And who are you today?
Well, I'm still Valerie Mason Cunningham.
Oh, good.
No,
You're a
you're
doctor.
a doctor.
Yeah, we
That's true. I am Dr. Valerie Mason
That's
Cunningham.
right.
Thank you
Dr.
for that.
VMC.
Dr.
That's
VMC.
yes, yes. Um, you know, after Leadership Westchester, which was my first full year off and out of the corporate environment, I then started to think through, okay, so how can I give back? How can I do this where I can really help others find their leadership excellence? And so I decided I'd go and get my coaching certificate.
Okay.
And it ended up going through the IPEC certification. I have 2 certifications from them to be an executive leadership coach. And I've decided to form my own LLC called Pride Matters, which stands for Personal Recognition in Delivering Excellence.
Wow,
Oh,
love that.
I love that.
Yes, yes. And it is really to help inspire others to aspire to be their best self.
That's
And,
awesome.
you know, coaching was the right formula in order to do that. And I do have a passion for women and up and coming women. So I have mentoring um, opportunities where I mentor women as they're now kind of in that midpoint of their careers and, you know, really not having a lot of people around them to know where to go. So I do that. And I was also asked to serve on the board of Mercy College.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
I have a passion for college to career. You know, that
Right.
the
Okay.
pathway that I went through and that we went through is no longer there. The
Right.
roadmap is like vaporware almost in order to navigate through and be able to perform and have the right sponsorships and mentorship. So
You know,
when
it's
they came
funny.
to me,
We on our call today in our Facebook community, we talked about these great speakers at college graduations that tell these kids, you could be anything you want to be. You could do anything you want to do. The sky's the limit. You could do whatever you want to do. And then, you know, the next day they're out in the world and there's no path, there's no plan, there's no,
Well,
they get a
yeah,
job.
this author that we were working with said, you know, there's these speeches that talk about you should be authentic, you know,
Yeah.
you should feel freedom to choose whatever you want, you know, and they're really these empty boxes because these kids are sitting there going, well, how do I do
what is
that?
it? What is that?
What do I choose? Like, where do I go? And, you know,
Yeah.
so technology hasn't made all of that a lot easier for them.
So it's awesome
Yeah.
you're helping them with that because they need
Well,
it desperately.
and part of you know, me getting my doctorate degree from Mercy was I was able to be the class of 2020 School of Business commencement speaker.
Oh,
Oh,
So
that's
I
wow.
did
great.
deliver the commencement speech for the class of 2020, and I'll just share really quickly that my theme was around rising up, and obviously being in the pandemic, I used this analogy of you know, just when the butterfly thought the world had come to an end, I'm sorry, just when the caterpillar thought the world had come to an end, it became a
Right.
butterfly.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That's
it
great.
rose up to the occasion. And so my recommendation to them, I had like 6 points to give them, you know, performance counts, you know, listen before you speak, earn before you spend, a lot of different things. But what the last thing that I told them to do, and I said this emphatically, was go to bed with lots of dreams, but
That's
wake up
great.
every day with a purpose
Oh, it's
Oh,
wonderful.
that's great.
So
and
Valerie,
rise up.
how much time are you spending with this new career of yours each
Well,
week?
probably a good, I don't know, 10 hours. It's
Okay.
not a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, I call my own shots. I don't
Right.
work on Fridays. I try not to
Uh,
work on Mondays. I use Mondays and Fridays as my bookends to figure out what do I really want to do Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
that's
That's
great.
great.
And then I pack Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And that's kind of the brilliant thing about that. The
Right.
other thing, Mark and Jody, that I am doing is and I have always been a strong believer of being a constant learner and finding opportunities to when I didn't have time because of my career and everything that I was doing, I couldn't do certain things. Now I'm getting interested in saying, that's a great webinar. I may try to look into that. And
That's great.
just to share with you right now, one of the things I'm looking to do is this whole thing around positive intelligence. Emotional intelligence. They have this thing, positive intelligence. I'm going through a 7-week program to really learn and master how I can really rewire my brain, from all the things that are constantly coming up, telling me what I can't do,
Right.
and building upon the ones that say I can do.
Yeah,
Isn't
I did something similar,
That's
Valerie.
what you did.
I went down to the University of Pennsylvania and did their program in applied positive psychology
Okay.
to really help, some of our clients and certainly, our children and friends, not what's wrong with you and let us
Right.
fix it. What's so right with you
Right.
that we just want to keep doing it.
Exactly.
And I have to tell you, I got so much inspiration about being back in the learning environment. I'm with you. I'm a perpetual learner. If
Yeah.
it's like it feeds me almost. I would give up my meals if I could learn. So I think
I hear you.
that's part of success at this stage of the game
It
for
is.
us.
It is.
There's a term we learned from Chip Conley, who wrote the book Wisdom at Work, and he calls it a long life learning.
Right.
Not
That's right.
lifelong learning, long
Right.
life
Life
learning.
learning.
Yeah.
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 And
So
there's so many things to do. And there's so much wisdom as you go through life that you have, and you don't even realize you have.
right.
And one of the other things that is important is you're always going to be a teacher and you're always going to be a student.
Mm.
Just live in the moment.
Yeah.
So the only thing that matters is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you had to think back and were able to pass forward one nugget from your wisdom, from all your years at Xerox, from starting now your new coaching company, raising a family, staying connected to friends and networks, would you have, one nugget that you'd say, if someone would have told me this when I turned 25, it would have made a difference?
Just breathe. Don't take it so hard, and don't be hard on yourself. Live in the moment, continue to learn, and when you fall, get back up. It's okay.
Yeah.
And that in life, many things are going to change. And even though you don't understand why you're doing things today, it doesn't matter, because it's really for what's going to happen to you tomorrow.
Right.
Just live in the moment. I
Yeah.
think that's the takeaway. Just live in the moment. Don't be too hard on yourself, and just know it's all going to be okay.
Right.
Well, Valerie, this has been great. You are a superb woman who
Oh,
really
thank you.
figured it out. You had an amazing career. You made this transition into this new phase of your life. This idea of working 3 days a week and bookending your weekends. It's so inspirational to us. We don't work Fridays either, except we work every Friday. So we have to work on
We have
that
to do a
part.
little
I
better
have
at
to
that.
say, there are times when it slips like
I
that in
know.
mine, but that's
Yeah.
what you strive for. But see,
Right.
working in the corporate environment, that
You couldn't.
wasn't even
No.
on your radar screen.
No.
No. No.
So this has been great.
Yeah,
We really
thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thank you,
And,
thank you, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I hope
Let's
for
do it
everyone-
again.
Yeah,
We will. No,
let's definitely do it again.
Jody's starting her own channel for women only, so
I am.
maybe you'll be the first on there too.
Yay.
I would
But
love
we
to
are.
participate.
We hope you enjoyed this interview today. If
I
any of you
did.
can think of someone who should be interviewed, put it in the comments below. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you're up on all the latest videos that we have out.
Right.
And
Thanks for listening.
thanks for listening, and follow us on social media. All those links are on the homepage, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Thanks again, Valerie.
Thanks, Valerie.
Thank you, guys.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Bye.